The first promise spoken aboard the throne ship of Valoria was made by a dying human. And every alien in the Crystal Hall thought it was madness, because outside the windows, Earth's last fleet burned like falling stars, and inside, Princess Orlin held a blade to Captain Elias Roan's throat, asking the question that would decide whether humanity lived or vanished: why do humans keep promises when breaking them would save you? Elias looked like wreckage with a heartbeat, his uniform torn from the battle that had swallowed his ship. Yet he smiled, as if the answer was older than fear, older than empire, older than the fire blooming behind him. Orlin had studied humans for years. Short lives, fragile bones, reckless hearts. But she did not understand the disease in them. They kept promises when no law enforced them. When every witness was dead, when the reward had turned to ash. 3 colonies had refused mercy for betraying Earth's roots. A smuggler died rather than reveal refugee ships. Then Elias whispered the line that froze the throne room. Because a promise is where a human puts their soul. The translator trembled around soul. Valorian law had no category for it. Orlin lowered her blade. Souls do not stop plasma cannons. Captain, your cities are open. Give me the Karth jump coordinates. Break your treaty, and I will spare Earth. Elias looked toward the blue curve of home. My grandfather crawled for days with a broken leg because he promised to return. My mother carried a neighbor's child through a flood because she promised to keep him safe. I promised the Karth we would stand beside them. And humans are strong because fear does not get to edit our names. Another cruiser exploded outside. The light painted him gold. And every Valorian saw a defeated creature speaking as if defeat was only weather. Orlin asked, "You would let your world die for strangers?" "No," Elias said. "I would let myself die so my world remembers what it is." Valoria was built on obedience, not memory. If a promise became inconvenient, it was revised. If a treaty endangered the throne, history was rewritten before dinner. Humans made no sense there. Their medics treated enemies because they had sworn oaths. Their pilots refused rescue until civilians were clear. Their dead ships sent last messages like, "Tell my daughter I kept the sky clear." Yet Orlin's analysts had wept translating it. Then the alarm screamed. A scout officer stumbled into the hall. "Princess, Karth vessels have entered the system." "Impossible," Orlin snapped. "Their fleet was broken at Namar Gate." "Not their fleet, Highness. They're civilians." The star map opened above the throne. Thousands of Karth ships appeared. Hospital barges, farming haulers, passenger shells, old cargo tubs with engines coughing fire. They were not armed for war. They were not arranged for victory. They were placing themselves between Earth and the Valorian Armada. Orlin stared at Elias. "What have you done?" He laughed once, and blood touched his teeth. "I kept a promise long enough for them to keep theirs." Across open channels came voices: Karth, human, Martian, lunar. Even free stations with no armies and no chance. All speaking one phrase in 100 accents: "Earth stood for us. We stand for Earth." The throne room fell silent enough to hear the wounded captain breathe. Here was the impossible truth that broke an empire. Humans did not keep promises because they were certain to win. They kept them until winning became possible. Orlin felt something split inside her. She had been raised to believe strength was the power to command sacrifice. But this broken human revealed something stronger. The power to make others choose sacrifice freely, because someone had kept faith with them first. Her generals demanded permission to fire. The Karth shield would burn quickly. Earth would follow. The empire would survive. It was logical, clean, familiar, but Orlin looked at Elias, a man with nothing left except the shape of his word, and understood why humans terrified every throne in the galaxy. You could take their planets, break their ships, scatter their bones across the stars, but if one human promise survived, it became a seed. Then came the moment every world would remember. Princess Orlin raised her hand, and instead of ordering fire, she ordered all weapons to stand down. Generals shouted treason, nobles screamed, guards lifted rifles. But her voice cut through the hall. We call ourselves great. Yet we fear a species whose greatest weapon is trust. If we destroy them today, we prove we are smaller than the promises we mocked. Orlin stepped down, removed the royal torque from her neck, and placed it before him, Captain Roan. I cannot return your dead, but before your witnesses and mine, I promise the Valorian Armada will leave Earth's space, and I will carry the cost. Her generals arrested her within the hour. The Armada withdrew within 2. Civil war began within 6. By year's end, the 7 moons had cracked into factions, some loyal to conquest, some loyal to the princess who had learned that honor was a debt paid before anyone knew the price. Elias did not live to see victory. His wounds took him 3 days later aboard a Karth hospital ship. Before he died, Orlin, chained in her own brig, was allowed one transmission. She asked again, not as an enemy, but as a student, why do humans keep promises? Elias smiled at the flickering screen because, one day, someone who has forgotten hope may borrow courage from our word. Years passed, the Empire fell, not to Earth's guns, but to a rebellion of promises. Soldiers refused massacres, governors honored treaties, prisoners were exchanged instead of executed. Children of conquered worlds learned the human phrase, "My word is my bond," when peace came. Orlin visited Earth, no longer princess, but founder of the Covenant of Free Sons. She stood before a memorial built from Elias Roan's ruined cruiser. She placed her hand on the blackened hull and spoke the vow that began the new age. We do not keep promises because the universe is kind. We keep them because it is not. We keep them so the dark knows where we stand. And from then on, when alien children asked why humans were guardians of trust, teachers told them about the burning fleet, the dying captain, and the alien princess who asked one simple question. They told them his answer started a legend, and legends, like promises, survive because someone chooses to carry them onward.